Okay, everybody, welcome to my living room. Today I'm going to show you how to create an animation just like the one that I have on the computer screen right now. And I'm going to hit it and start playing it back for you. Just a simple animation like this. What I want to show you first is the way I have these files organized. Now I saved everything on the desktop, but at school you'll be able to save everything to the photography shortcut folder when you look for it on the left sidebar. But I basically have 4 separate files, and then this is my exported animation here, which I'll go back and I'll retitle that so I know what that is later. But you can see I actually made my own folder. If I go back to my desktop and show you right here, text circle animation. So I made a very specific folder to keep these files in. And a very basic animation may only include 4 Photoshop files. So if you want to start it off nice and easy, maybe 4 is a good starting point. Really, you're only creating 1 file, and then you're going to do some variations, and that's why I have 4 files in here. But of course, if you feel comfortable with making a lot of files, then you can really add as many files to this animation as you would like. So I would encourage you to be creative. The more files you have, the different changes that you're going to see in your animation, and so on and so forth. So what you're seeing here are some basic tools that we've used throughout the semester. The shape tool to draw that circle, the type tool to have my name going around, and then the gradient, which is how my background is made of. So once Photoshop is launched, I'm going to start a brand new file. Now you can keep it a nice, simple default size. 5x7 is the default in Photoshop. If you want to title it ahead of time, that would be a smart idea. I'm just going to call this Miss I Name Animation. And then everything else is okay. I'm going to leave it at 300 pixels per inch, width 7, height 5. That was just a default in here, and I'm going to hit create. So we have a nice empty document, and I'm just going to pull a gradient. You're going to find your gradient tool right in the middle of your toolbar. If you right-click on the gradient, you might see the paint bucket tool underneath. So if you want a nice solid fill, you can choose the paint bucket and change your foreground color. Or if you like the gradient, you can then drop down some of the options up here and go ahead and pull a gradient through. So maybe I'll do just a different color than I showed you earlier. I'll just choose something green and blue to fill my background. So now I'm going to take my shape tool so that I can use the shape as a guide to create my typing. And it's just, remember, you've got a lot of options here. If you would like to use the polygon or the triangle, the rectangle, definitely choose some of those other options that are in there. I'm just going to keep it nice and simple, and I'll do my ellipse again. But if you feel comfortable with those other tools, then you have a lot of choices. So if you want the gradient to fill with your shape, then you're choosing the option up here at the top. And maybe just for a little contrast, I'll choose a very different gradient this time so you guys can see the difference. I'll grab like an orange. And that's going to fill as I click and drag across my frame. So I'm just doing a nice simple ellipse. And of course, it made its own separate layer. And if I want to move that into a different position, I can grab my move tool up here and push that ellipse wherever I need it to be within the frame. Now I'm going to go ahead and type on a path that this circle is going to provide for me, and I'm going to grab my type tool. Remember, when you hover your cursor right on the edge of that shape, you're going to get that wavy line, like I'm seeing it change right here as I drag it to the edge of my circle. Okay, when you see that wavy line and you go ahead and you click, you know that your type is going to draw right along that path, and it's automatically going to fill with the new Photoshop this, sample type for you. And I am going to go in and play around with my fonts because there are so many to choose from. So definitely change that up to something that you think will work. And then I'm going to type my name in here. And if I want it to really go around in a circle, I might type my name several times. Oops, obviously I need to make some corrections here. And I'm going to type it a third time, and then I might have to just tweak the font style. Remember, if you click and highlight your type, you will be able to go back and use some of the type options here. Changing your style is going to fill that circle a little differently because they vary, slightly in size. If I want it to fit a little bit better, then I can certainly change my point size up here. So it's actually not a bad fit right now. Maybe I'll just go up like another point and see another point or two, like 42 points, to see if that fills in. Click the enter button, and that just fills a little bit better there. So I've got my type in, I have my shape, and I have my background layer. Okay, so to keep it nice and simple, you can keep these 3 layers in mind. So again, we've used these tools before, and you can change up these variables as much as you want. So feel free to play around with those tools as you might have done in the past, or you can keep it just as simple as I have it here in my layers palette. And it's not necessary to keep your shape in there. If you want to get rid of it and just use it as a tool that you're typing around, by all means, you can get rid of it. I'll just hide it so you can see what that would look like without the shape in there. It's up to you guys whether you want to keep your shape in there or you want to just get rid of it totally, because now I have that nice path that I was able to type on and using that ellipse as the tool. So that's up to you. The key is that you're going to start to make variations on this one file. And that is just as easy as going to the Save menu and save your initial file first. So I'm going to click on File, Save As, and I've named mine ahead of time, so my title is already in here. Again, if you haven't made a brand new folder for this, I would go in and create a new folder. I'll just call this Type Animation so I know what it is. And then I'll open that folder. And again, I have my title already done, and I'll just save that first file, and you can always maximize compatibility. So I'm going to click OK. Okay, now it's just a matter of creating a few variations. So this is my first file, and if I want to just do a set of 4 files, then I'm going to just make some changes and do a save as every time I do a series of changes. So I could go in and I could change my background up a little bit, change my ellipse fill a little bit, and I definitely want to rotate this text for each new file so that I get that spinning effect. If you guys wanted to actually make your type bigger or smaller, then maybe another option is to slowly make each file smaller text so that it looks like the text recedes into space. You have to think ahead of time on where you want that animation to go. How do you want the words to move? Do you want them to shrink? Do you want them to get bigger, or do you want them to spin? Any number of directions or ways to animate it is really up to you. So I'm going to make a few changes now, and I'll go to my background layer, and then I'll grab my gradient tool again, and I'll change it up just so it's slightly different. Maybe I'll just choose a slightly different color, drag my gradient through, so this time it's a different color, and those colors will shift in my animation. And if I want to keep my ellipse in there, I can also go back to the shape tool. Right, notice I'm going to my layers. I'm clicking on the right layer that I want to change. I'm going back to the tool that I used before, and now I can pick a different kind of fill color for that. And then finally, one of the most important things is how you're going to change your type layer. So I can go back into the edit menu, and I can go to free transform. Let's see, I want to do free transform path. Otherwise, the key command would be Control T. That works as well. If I do transform path, then I have some options like I can scale this differently, rotate it, skew it, distort it. That could actually work for your animation. So choosing some of these could work. Or you could just do some simple rotating 180, rotating 90 degrees, or you can flip them horizontal and things will, take a weird turn or flip as they animate. I'll show you guys with Control T because that might be one of the easiest things. It's going to give you your bounding box, and you can turn a quarter turn with your type each time. Okay, so I can see my type is just turned about a quarter turn. So I'm happy with those changes. That's my first set of changes. I'm going to go File, Save As every time. And then my title is already in here, but this time I'm going to make this version number 2, and it's going to save in the same file. So I'm just going to make changes as I go. Maybe this time, because I'm already in my type layer, I'll hit Control T again and give that a half turn this time. Click the Enter button when you're done transforming, and you'll see that shift take place. And I'll just work my way backwards down these layers. So again, I'm in my ellipse layer. I can choose my shape and just pick a different kind of fill color. And then I can go to my background layer, and I can grab my gradient tool, and then I can choose yet a different color gradient to fill. So that's my third set of changes. I'm going to go to the File menu, Save As, change this to number 3, click the Save button, and OK. You always want to maximize compatibility. And then for my last file, number 4, again, I'll just make those same slight variations. Now, you guys can go crazy with this, and you can make a lot of different variation swaps. Feel free to get creative as you want. You can certainly add more layers if you want, but there's nothing wrong with keeping it nice and simple like I'm showing you in this tutorial. So again, I'm just going to go to the ellipse. I'm in the right layer over here, change my fill a little bit, and then finally select my type. Control T is the free transform tool, and I'm going to make that last quarter turn here, click the Enter button, and then I've made that final complete turn all the way around with my letters. So File, Save As, change this to my 4th, and then save, and OK. Okay, last part. Once you have all those files, you're just ready to do your animation. And I'm going to go to the File menu for that. And I am going to go to Load Files into Stack. So File, find Scripts, find Load Files into Stack. And then you're going to choose the files from that new folder that you made. So if I browse, I'm already in the file that I've been saving in, and I'm just going to hold my Control key and click on all of these files, and I'm going to hit OK to load those into a brand new Photoshop file, and click OK here. And they're slowly automated in there, and you can see them stacking one on top of the other. So these are Photoshop files that have a lot of layers, but Photoshop has done some work here for you. It's sort of condensed all these layers, so that makes it nice and easy for animating. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show my timeline. So when you go to the window menu, you can find your timeline alphabetically and pull that up. If you need to drag it around a little bit, you can go ahead and click on that timeline word and it will drag that timeline around. Now, what we want to see, by default, you guys will probably have create video timeline, but we do not want to do that. We actually want to click on this drop down. We need to create a frame animation, and then we need to click on the button that says create frame animation. That's going to drop your first frame in here. Now you're looking for these little lines right here. This is another drop-down menu or pop-up menu, and you want to make frames from layers. So as I choose make frames from layers, it's going to load everything in. Okay, and it's dropping everything in at 1 second intervals here. If I play it, it flashes pretty quickly. If that's too quick for you, then you may want to change the seconds. So I'm going to go to a 1 second frame on each, or really the zero is no delay at all. But we need a little bit of delay to make this go a little bit more smooth. So now my colors and my words are shifting. Last step is to export it. So we're actually going to go to File, and we are going to choose Export, and you're looking for Save for Web Legacy. Okay, so File menu, Export, Save for Web Legacy. And you can keep all your defaults in here. I didn't change mine at all when I made these animations. You may want to just zoom out a little bit to see the entire file, but it's not necessary. And then I'm going to go to the Save button. And I do have to place it in that folder that I was working out of, so I'm going to navigate to my desktop. Some of you guys will probably be navigating to your photography shortcut folder. And then I've got my type animation folder. And I'm going to just retitle this so that I know what this is. This is my name animation. And click Save. So now if I just minimize Photoshop and I go to my type animation folder and I open up this GIF that was exported, the photo viewer should open it up and it should play. Now you can send this to wherever you want to. You could probably text it to somebody. You could probably upload it for your Instagram page or whatever kind of social media you might want to use these for. Have fun.